Welcome to Innovation Pulse, your quick, no-nonsense update covering the latest in startups and entrepreneurship news. First, we explore Oway's $4 million seed round revolutionizing U.S. trucking and FieldAI's $405 million boost for AI-driven robotics. After this, we'll dive deep into how storytelling principles from Disney and Pixar can transform social media strategies, fostering genuine connections and lasting relationships with audiences. Oway, a San Francisco-based startup founded in 2023, is tackling inefficiencies in the U.S. trucking industry by optimizing empty trailer space on long-haul routes. Supported by Y Combinator and General Catalyst, Oway has secured a $4 million seed round to scale its innovative model, which resembles a ride-sharing service for freight. By leveraging electronic logging devices and machine learning, Oway matches cargo with unused trailer space, significantly reducing shipping costs. For instance, it can lower the cost of moving a sub-2,000-pound pallet from Los Angeles to Dallas from approximately $350 to as low as $140. Oway combines the speed of full truckload shipping with the cost efficiency of less than truckload shipping, using a decentralized approach without owning trailer space. This model not only cuts costs, but also minimizes emissions and idle time for truckers, while reducing the risk of freight damage. Although currently focused on the U.S. market, Oway has attracted international interest, with plans to transform the logistics sector by addressing the $100 billion problem of empty truck space. FieldAI, based in Irvine, California, is a robotics startup revolutionizing the way robots perceive and adapt to their environments by developing foundational embodied AI models. These models act as versatile robot brains, adaptable across a range of machines, from humanoids to self-driving cars. With a hefty $405 million raised in various undisclosed funding rounds, including a significant $314 million round led by Bezos Expeditions, Prism, and Temasek, FieldAI has secured backing from notable investors like Khosla Ventures and Intel Capital. FieldAI's unique approach integrates physics into AI models, enabling robots to learn and adapt safely in new environments. This method allows robots to assess risk and make informed decisions, addressing a critical gap in traditional robotics where safety and adaptability were often compromised. CEO Ali Agha emphasizes that their models provide a confidence level in decision-making, enhancing safety, particularly in challenging or hazardous settings. FieldAI aims to create a universal robot brain capable of diverse tasks, reflecting the adaptability seen in human evolution, rather than focusing on single-use applications. And now, pivot our discussion towards the main entrepreneurship topic.
All right, everybody, welcome to another deep dive on Innovation Pulse. I'm Donna, and as always, I'm here with my co-host, Yakov Lasker. Today, we're exploring something that bridges the gap between entertainment and marketing in a fascinating way. How the storytelling principles that make Disney and Pixar movies so compelling can actually transform your social media strategy.
Thanks, Donna. And you know, when we think about storytelling powerhouses, Disney immediately comes to mind, right? But here's what's interesting. There's someone who spent a full decade inside that storytelling machine, working at Pixar and then as a writer for Disney shows, and they've distilled their learnings into actionable insights for modern marketers. We're talking about principles that helped create characters like the first openly gay character on Disney Channel, and that shaped some of Pixar's most beloved films.
That's incredible. So we're essentially getting a masterclass from someone who was in the room where the magic happened. Lay it on me. What's the first big principle we need to understand?
The foundation of everything is this: if you don't have stakes, you don't have a story. And there's this brilliant example that really drives this home. Picture this scenario. A main character gets stuck in an elevator. you might care a little, right? It's mildly concerning.
Sure, I'd be worried. But it's not exactly edge of your seat material.
Exactly, but now imagine that same character is claustrophobic. Suddenly you care more because the stakes just got higher. But here's the kicker. If that claustrophobic character is someone you actually care about, someone whose journey you're invested in, then you're completely hooked.
Ah, so it's not just about creating problems, it's about making sure your audience is emotionally invested in the person facing those problems. How does this translate to social media marketing?
This is where it gets really practical. Instead of casting anonymous models or actors, brands are starting to feature real people with real stories. Think about it. When fashion brands during London Fashion Week started featuring actual editors, stylists, even the creative director's mother instead of traditional models, they weren't just showing clothes. They were showing people we could connect with, people whose stories mattered.
That's brilliant because suddenly it's not just about the product, it's about the person wearing it. We naturally care more about real individuals with genuine backgrounds and motivations.
Precisely. And this brings us to something that might surprise you: the power of shapes to elicit feelings. Remember the opening sequence of Up? No dialogue, just visuals. But it makes you feel everything.
Oh, that sequence destroys me every time. But wait, shapes can create emotions. How does that work?
The Pixar storyboard, artists were incredibly intentional about this. They made Ellie's face circular because circles suggest openness and warmth. Carl got a square face because squares convey stability and stubbornness. It's almost like visual psychology. Our brains are wired to respond to these geometric cues emotionally.
So when brands are creating content, they should be thinking about these visual elements as part of their emotional toolkit. I'm thinking about that Glossier campaign you mentioned, all those creamy pastels and fluid movements. They're not just pretty, they're deliberately designed to make you feel calm and invited in.
Exactly, and this connects to another crucial principle. You can't get surprise without expectation. This is actually the core of drama. Think about how playwrights have used this for centuries. In Chekhov's plays, if someone handles a gun in the first act, the audience expects it to go off by the final act. It's that anticipation that creates the emotional tension.
Okay, so how do we apply this expectation building in social media? Are we talking about those wait until the end videos?
Those are a perfect example. The moment you see "wait until the end" on a TikTok, you're immediately primed for something surprising. But there's another technique that's even more sophisticated: starting your video with a quick clip from the ending, then jumping back to show how you got there. It's like giving people a preview of the payoff before taking them on the journey.
That's smart because it promises them something worth waiting for. But let's talk about something that goes deeper than just grabbing attention. What actually makes a story compelling once you have people's interest?
This is where we get to the heart of storytelling. The conflict is the story. And there's a specific framework that Disney uses to think about this. It's the tension between what a character wants versus what they need.
Can you break that down for me? What's the difference?
Sure, what a character wants is usually external and physical. In Toy Story, Woody wants to be Andy's favorite toy. But what a character needs is the truth they have to learn. Woody needs to learn how to share Andy's love. That tension between the external desire and the internal growth requirement, that is what fuels the entire story.
So it's not just about achieving a goal, it's about the personal transformation that happens in pursuit of that goal. How does this show up in marketing content?
There's this brilliant example with Home Goods. They created a scripted series called Home Sweet Home Goods starring actress Gillian Bell. She plays herself, desperately wanting to make a home goods store feel like a home. But she needs to confront the reality that it's actually a functioning retail store where people are shopping. That tension creates genuine comedy while serving as an engaging advertisement.
I love that because it's not just selling products, it's creating a narrative tension that keeps people engaged. Now, thinking about the bigger picture, how should brands approach their storytelling over time?
This is where the distinction between TV and movies becomes really valuable for marketers. TV has the ability to evolve over time. whereas movies just are. TV shows you a life being lived over an extended period. Movies capture a life in roughly 90 minutes.
So you're saying brands should think of their social media presence differently than their big campaign moments?
Exactly. Your ongoing social media presence is like a TV series. Each post is an episode that builds character, establishes tone, and deepens the relationship with your audience over time. People tune in regularly and form emotional connections. But your major campaign moments, product launches, seasonal pushes, those are like blockbuster movies. They're more finite, polished, and designed for maximum cultural impact.
Like Spotify Wrapped dropping once a year and everyone talking about it for that limited window. It's a cinematic moment versus the daily relationship building.
Perfect example. And speaking of what makes content memorable, let's talk about comedy, because humor is such a powerful tool for brands. There's this simple but profound formula. Comedy equals truth plus specificity.
Truth plus specificity. Can you give me an example of how this works?
Think about that moment in Inside Out when we're inside the dad's head during a family dinner. His wife asks him something casual, and his inner emotions panic. Oh, she's looking at us. And just play it cool, man. Play it cool. It's hilarious because it's both universally true and incredibly specific. Most of us have zoned out when our partner was talking and then scrambled to cover it up.
Right. So the humor comes from recognition. That moment when your audience thinks, wait, that's me. How are brands using this principle?
Look at Liquid Death's ad for something called the pit diaper, supposedly a solution for people who need to use the bathroom while in a mosh pit. It's absurd, but it speaks to a universal truth that concert venue bathrooms are disgusting, and it gets incredibly specific about this weird scenario that somehow feels relatable, even if you've never been in a mosh pit.
That's genius because they're taking a shared discomfort and amplifying it to an extreme that becomes funny. Now, this brings up an interesting question about originality. Are there actually any new stories anymore?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The answer is both yes and no. Many stories we love were inspired by older stories. Jaws has connections to ancient Greek mythology. Countless movies are based on books. But here's the key insight for brands. The best way to make your story feel new is to bring your unique point of view to it.
So it's not about inventing entirely new narrative structures. It's about finding what only your brand can say or show.
Exactly. Take Mohawk Chevrolet's TikTok account. They created a weekly series mirroring The Office format, but starring their own dealership staff in workplace scenarios. Think duck pranks and struggles to park a Silverado. The format is familiar, but the setting and characters are completely ownable to their brand.
That's such a smart approach because people already know how to consume office-style content, but the specific context makes it feel fresh and authentic. Now, when brands are developing this kind of content, how do they ensure it has that deeper resonance?
This is where theme becomes crucial. One of the writers from Inside Out says you should be able to summarize your theme in one word. And when you say that word, you should feel it in your gut. Finding Nemo's theme is loss. Spider-Man is responsibility. Lord of the Rings is sacrifice.
So themes should be emotional and personal, not just conceptual. What does this look like for social media accounts?
Think about the creators you follow religiously. You can probably identify their vibe in one word. Some accounts give you funny, others give you cool, or inspiring, or authentic. The most successful brand accounts have that same clarity of emotional purpose. Every piece of content should contribute to that overarching feeling.
That makes so much sense. It's like building an emotional brand identity, not just a visual one. But how do you structure individual pieces of content to maximize their impact?
Story structure is absolutely key, and there's a fascinating example from Finding Nemo's development that illustrates this. Originally, the backstory about Marlin's wife being killed by a barracuda was woven throughout the entire movie as flashbacks. But test audiences didn't really like Marlin as they watched. They found him annoying and overprotective.
Oh no, that's a problem when your main character isn't likable.
Right. So Pixar moved all those flashbacks to the very beginning of the movie. Suddenly, right from the start, you understand exactly why Marlin is so protective of Nemo. You have the emotional context that makes his behavior not just understandable, but sympathetic.
So the lesson is that context and timing in storytelling can completely change how your audience perceives your message. Understanding traditional structure helps you know when and how to break it effectively.
Exactly. And this brings us to what might be the most satisfying storytelling technique of all, bringing things full circle. The beginning of a story is the question mark, and the end is the period. When done well, you should be able to look at the first scene and the last scene and understand the complete emotional journey.
Can you give me a concrete example of how brands are using this full circle approach?
Duolingo is probably the master of this. They spent 4 years building this unhinged persona for their mascot Duo, getting obsessed with Dua Lipa, making wild pop culture references, developing this chaotic personality that people fell in love with. Then, in early 2025, they killed off the character in a campaign that acknowledged exactly how he lived. Completely unhinged.
That's brilliant because it honors the journey they took their audience on while creating this massive cultural moment. The Death campaign became their most successful ever, right?
Exactly. 1.7 billion owned social impressions. It worked because it wasn't just a marketing stunt. It was the logical conclusion to a 4-year character arc that their audience had been following.
What I find fascinating about all these principles is how they're really about understanding human psychology and emotion, not just about entertainment or marketing tactics. Whether you're making a Pixar movie or creating social content, you're ultimately trying to create genuine human connection.
That's such an important insight, Donna. These aren't just tricks or techniques. They're based on how we naturally process stories and emotions. When brands understand that their content needs to work on that fundamental human level, they can create experiences that don't just grab attention, but actually build lasting relationships with their audiences.
And I think that's the real takeaway here. In a world where everyone is fighting for attention, the brands that win aren't necessarily the ones that shout the loudest. They're the ones that understand how to make people genuinely care about their story.
Absolutely, whether you're dealing with wants versus needs, building expectations for surprise, or bringing your unique perspective to familiar formats, it all comes back to that fundamental principle. Make your audience care about the characters in your story, even if those characters are your customers, your employees, or your brand itself.
So maybe the next time you're planning a campaign or creating content, ask yourself, what are the stakes here? Who are the characters? What's the conflict between what they want and what they need? And how can I make my audience genuinely invested in the outcome?
Perfect questions to end on. These Disney storytelling principles prove that great content isn't about having the biggest budget or the flashiest effects. It's about understanding what makes humans tick and crafting experiences that honor that understanding.
Thanks for diving deep with us today, everyone. Until next time, remember that every post, every video, every piece of content is an opportunity to tell a story that matters. This has been Innovation Pulse, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
That's a wrap for today's podcast. We explored how Oway and FieldAI are revolutionizing industries with innovative technology, while Donna and Yakov Lasker shared insights on storytelling techniques to elevate social media strategies. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends and colleagues so they can also stay updated on the latest news and gain powerful insights. Stay tuned for more updates.